When comedy was about being funny, movies were about telling great stories, and you didn't need a political lecture every time you hit play. Great entertainment still exists, it's just getting harder to find. Even the biggest streaming platforms leave audiences disappointed. That's why there's Studio TST, pure entertainment, real comedy, independent films, bold creators, movies, comedy, music, and more, and the home of fearless sketch comedy. That show tonight, entertainment the way you want it. Funny, creative, unapologetic, and agenda-free. Studio TST, the future of entertainment starts here. Join Studio TST today for just $5 a month.
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Ever have a Friday that feels like a Monday? Ever have those? I'm having one of those. I just realized because I went through and cleaned a bunch of stuff out of my hard drive that I never moved the usual intro outro that we use for the show to my board, and I don't have it anymore. So that's why we went with the breaking news sound instead. Anyway, welcome into the Weekend News Roundup because I'm Rick Robinson. I'm the producer, and I am semi-retarded. I mean, retired. Anyway. Actually, I probably shouldn't even be able to say I'm semi-retarded. I think it's more closely to fully. Anyway, never mind. That's a topic for a different show. Anyway, so it is the Weekend News Roundup. It is Friday. It is Juneteenth. Remember, for those who are celebrating today, this is the day the Republicans forced Democrats to tell their slaves that they were finally free, like 2 years after the war was over. So,
are we supposed to be celebrating? I'm not sure. Even more.
I mean, I've been told as a white dude I'm not allowed, but I still like to point out that, that because everybody that's made it like this big thing, I'm like, oh, so it is a big deal that Republicans finally forced Democrats to tell them their slaves were free.
Yeah, but isn't that the way it always works? That you're not allowed to celebrate properly because you're white, but then if you don't acknowledge it properly, you're being racist.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll get into this in a second because there's a big brouhaha over Pride Month again in MLB. But anyway, since you started first, how are things for you today, Brad? How's things? How's tricks?
A little bit the same. I'm kind of thinking, right? I don't know. My whole summer is kind of one of upheaval, but we're fighting through it all. That's why I've missed the last couple of weeks because all of a sudden it'll be, well, we got to go do this. Oh, we got this happening, and we got to go see this family member, and I don't even make any plans anymore because they can just be thrown into the trick bag anytime. So we're just fighting through it, but plenty going on, of course. So we're having fun while we do it. We just don't know what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, you described most of my adult life while raising children in the summertime. So get it. Anyway, and also from SHR Media, we have none other than the guy who is and he calls himself this, so no hate mail, the bulbous one, BZ from BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, who is live on select Tuesday and Thursday nights over there in the SHR Media studios, as well as being usually simulcast over here when my system doesn't be a dick. Anyway, so how you doing, BZ? How's things?
Bulbosity unrestrained. There's no restraining it. 2 comments. Number 1 is June what? And the
Right.
second comment is, hey, Wednesday, thanks for letting me know that a massive amount of stupidity occurred, which I still think, but I was being kind last night. I mean, it's a guest. Okay. Let's not chew up guests. Let's let them have their piece and their say. And I was hoping for something. I spoke to Gene Baradelli last night, folks, for those who don't know. And I was hoping for some explanation or common sense or a way to translate the 14 points that would make sense to me, where I could, at the conclusion of last night, go, now it makes sense. Now I get it. That was not reached. So,
Yeah,
other than that, I'm fine.
I have to admit, I went and turned you guys on in my room for the last 30 minutes because I was like, nobody's paying attention. Not even the chat was paying attention. Your chat had kind of turned into a hookup.
There was
a hookup session. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna go watch this in my room now, because nobody's paying attention to anything. These two were trying to set up a time to come hook up with each other or some shit. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm gonna go finish watching.
But I told people, I was honest. I said, we're gonna discuss blah 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 blah. And probably your eyes are gonna glaze over, and you're gonna be like that one scene in Jaws where just before the attack, the eyes roll up into your back of your head, and yeah, that's what happened.
Well, yeah, so I wrote a whole piece about it, but I had to put it out under my own banner because everybody that I write for as a freelancer was like, we're not touching that with a 10-foot pole. So only about 200 people have seen it so far. So
really told you that they're not going to do that, said to you or wrote to you that we're not interested in that.
Oh no, well, it's pretty much that simple. Most of the time I just send them an email with an article attached and be like, if you want to run it as an editorial or opinion piece, go ahead. I send it off to a few that I write for on a regular basis that isn't twitchy, because I didn't do it in a twitchy style format, and I got polite declinations back, and yeah, we're not touching that. So
wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on where there's I think it's because they can't really quantify what's in the deal yet, even though they've come out and laid out what's in the deal. Making it make sense is a little tough right now. So I mean, I've seen it myself. I haven't tried covering it, but I've seen that editorial reaction. So
yeah, I mean, well, the thing, and we might as well just dive in, because that's probably going to be one of the biggest points for today, and then we'll move into the kind of funnier, weirder stuff on the back end. But so here's my thing with this, right? So it's not the fact that a deal had to be reached. I understand that we were reaching the point where a deal had to be made, and let me explain. And I've explained this on BZ's show, and I even explained it to Ross one time on Gene's show when this kind of came up while we were still in the thick of it. We fight not necessarily with one hand tied behind our back anymore, but with one hand on the trigger and the other on the scales of the world, because after World War II, we rebuilt everything and we tied it all together, because after World War I, nobody thought there would be anything like it ever again. 30 some odd years later, here we were again. So we decided to become Atlas and take the entirety of the Western world onto our shoulders and rebuild it in our own image. And when we did that, we put together a lot of economic systems that all tied together and fit together nicely, and we became the world's trade currency, blah, 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 blah. But it also created a system to where you can't bomb anybody back to the Stone Age anymore, even though that country's technically already kind of still there, because if you do, the rest of the world economy is going to collapse. And that's what Trump started running into. So I understand a deal had to be made. My problem is, don't spend 4 days before the deal comes out saying, oh, all these leaks aren't true. That's not really what's happening. And then it comes out and it's pretty much everything that was leaked.
I get what Gene was saying in terms of the deal is fungible, it's changeable. These are just some early parameters. I get that point, leaving an opening for us to react in X, Y, or Z. My biggest concern is stopping with the military presence if someone thusly decides that's going to be what happens. And the microsecond that we take our forces away from the region because Iran is Iran and Muslims are Muslims, then the paradigm will change. It will shift. It will have to. And I continuously believe this is the last president or the last regime that we'll see in a certain period of time that would have the temerity to grab all these assets, move them across the Oceanus Bigus, and put them in the region available for usage. Once they go away and Trump is gone or any number of elements occur, I don't think we'll ever see this gathering again. Once that stuff is gone, it's going to take, and especially after 28 or especially after November, because who knows, it's going to take damn near an act of God to get all that stuff back again.
Well, no, I mean, and then Brett, give me a second, and I'll let you chime in. My problem with this is, and I've been saying this for forever, Gene, when we first started talking about it, was like he was focusing on the midterms. He's trying to make sure that we get to keep the House and the Senate in the midterms. And I'm just going back to all the times before this that we've always said, I don't want somebody in office who's worried about elections. I want somebody in office who's going to do the right thing and not worry about the damn consequences. And here's my problem with all of this. Like the second Iran started getting money again, Hezbollah went nuts. Now, supposedly there's another ceasefire, but Iran is already using this to say, no, we're out of this deal because Israel broke it. No, Hezbollah broke it, but Iran can't admit that because Iran basically probably told Hezbollah to break it. Hey, we've got some money coming back into our coffers. Go ahead and see, let's just find a way to get out of this thing and then see whether they're going to clamp all this stuff back down again. The other problem is that I keep running into with all these talking heads who claim to be smarter than me. They keep saying, well, it's a 60-day deal, and if they don't behave, we're just going to bomb them again. By then, we're in the middle of the midterms. You really think a president's going to be bombing somebody in the middle of the fucking midterms? Really? You think so? I don't. Why do you think he's trying to get out of it now?
Iran will never stop. Iran will never stop. Muslims will never stop. You have the opportunity. Just remove the head from the snake.
Well, that's basically what you got to do. I mean, I've got two primary questions about this, but the biggest challenge in all of this is that this has become a quagmire, but not a military one, but a policy one. And it's because we don't have support from Europe. They're against all this. We've got absolute recalcitrance from Democrats here. They refuse to even be on board with anything we're doing over there. And then in Iran itself, we don't know the leadership because we keep taking the leaders out. And their defense is completely fractured now because when they have the leadership get cut out, their fallback policy was to go into a mosaic defense position, which means all the fractured divisions in their government military can act independently now. So this is why you see arbitrary bombing take place on their allies, supposedly. And you see other attacks taking place when there's supposed to be ceasefires because nobody's really in control of the military entire. It is a completely fractured setup now. And so there's two things that really rear up. One, why can't we control the Strait of Hormuz? We've got everything else bottled down as far as their defense, and we can't get the strait locked down. That makes no sense to me. And we have them crippled economically. So why aren't we just removing leadership and getting them into a democratic position? Because the people want it. You've got the Shah's son out there in America ready to step in and take over, who will be an ally. Two things that make perfect sense can't happen, and it's probably because of so much of the quagmire and fog going on elsewhere. We don't have ally support. NATO looks like it might be falling apart, and the Democrats domestically don't want to help out in any capacity because it involves Trump by name. So I think they've entered into things with a complete confidence we'll control it all, and all the outside forces are the ones doing the unraveling.
Brad, you bring up an excellent point. With whom are we negotiating?
It changes week to week, it seems like. And
so who knows?
And you don't have somebody to count on. I mean, I've seen where a couple of months ago, before we took out one of the new leaders, the press was insisting, oh, he's the biggest ally for America. And then the guy comes out and talks about how he wants America to be burning in cinders. So our press doesn't even know what's going on over there. And yeah, I mean, it's to the point now where the other problem too has been, how many times has President Trump said a deal is in place, only to find out it's not? And, we've got a ceasefire agreement, and then we don't. So it's nothing
and then
is concrete.
Then what he did, what the Democrats do, he changed the definition of a ceasefire and said, well, over there, ceasefire doesn't mean what it means here. It just means they shoot at each other a little less. But what the fuck? Come on, man. I mean, look, I get it. I trust me. I understand it, because we cannot go full bore anymore. We have built a system economically where we're not allowed to do that. It's why ever since World War II, everything has been fought to a stalemate or a withdrawal. And we are right back there again, because he actually said those words Friday morning. If I didn't do something, we were headed towards a worldwide recession. And that is an admission that we can't fight wars the way we used to, because we have tried to make sure that we don't ever get in another situation like World War II. The problem that you have, and this is one of the things that I keep trying to explain to people like Gene, who are looking at this logically and rationally, but they're looking at it logically and rationally from a westernized perspective. In Western war, when you bomb the shit out of somebody, if there's somebody left to talk to and they're willing to talk to you, that usually means that you can work out a deal and you technically win. But this is really no different than when we went through with Japan. There's a reason we had to drop nukes on Japan to stop them from trying to kill us, because we were wiping them out, but they were still coming. The problem with Middle Eastern society and Middle Eastern philosophy is, if there is one person who still believes in the caliphate left in charge in that place, and we give them time to rebuild, it's all going to come right back.
Well,
it's not about regime change, technically speaking, but it has to be about regime change, because if even one of them lives, as far as they're concerned, they win, because they took the punch and they're still there to rebuild.
Go back to Bush. Bush said, we win, it's over. Everyone wants freedom. Really? Everyone, especially those in the Middle East? Well, there are two layers to it. There are the people, some who they're not practicing Islam properly, if they're moderate, air quotes. And the rest, the leaders, they will never stop. You will never stop them. And if you kill them, as far as they're concerned, up to that moment, I'm going great places, so I don't care.
And another challenge you've got, too, is you're dealing with Islamic leaders who they don't operate on a faith base the same way we do, because they have a belief system that basically we're the devils, and therefore it's appropriate to lie and manipulate and deceive, because you're doing that to the devil. So they're justified in that. How do you negotiate?
And that will never change. That will never change. For those of you who just tuned in, that will never change. If you didn't get it, hey, by the way, kids, that will never change.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually written in their doctrine, that it's permissible to be deceptive towards those that are considered the devil. So how do you establish policy in good faith? It just, this points to something that always cracks me up. Back when The Onion was actually humorous, they put out a book. It was called Our Dumb Century, and it was basically just newspaper headlines from across 100 years of the 1900s. And I think about 7 or 8 times in it, they had headlines, "Peace has been achieved in the Middle East." And it just became progressively funnier, because it's never been peaceful in the Middle East, ever. So again, we have to be there because of oil, and that's the only reason. Otherwise, what the hell are we doing there? But I don't know how we can't clamp down on Iran when they've pissed off their allies in the last few months with arbitrary bombing runs and such. Their supposed allies have said, we're sick of this too. So why can't we put a lid on this?
The problem with that is their allies are publicly saying we're sick of this, and now that there's a framework in place, they're like, we'll pay you to stop bombing us. Here's some money. And again, I just want to point out this is exactly what happened. And this is the look. I have said my biggest issue with the MOU is money is fungible, and everybody like JD's biggest thing. Vice President Vance. Let me be respectful for the last several days. His biggest thing is America's not giving them a dime. Yes, but they're going to eventually have access to at least $300 billion. Money is fungible. They're already getting money again from oil. And I don't want to hear this money is above board and it can be tracked and it's not going to be dark fleets. And it's not, you really don't think they're still not going to find a way to sneak things to people? Because again, just would like to point out, coincidentally, and for those of you who've been listening to me for a while, you know how much I don't believe in those things. Less than 24 hours while the ink wasn't even dry yet, we go ahead and start all the waivers to let them sell their oil again, start giving them access to some of the revenue from the oil that they've already sold. And within 24 hours, Hezbollah is shooting rockets into Israel. Coincidence? Yeah, I don't believe in those. Yeah.
Well, it goes back, unfortunately, to the Western mindset. You know, that it will never stop. They will never stop. Our mindset is, well, if we just appear rational in some fashion and at least make the attempt to indicate that we are possessed of some form of rationality, they'll come around. Well, first we'll entreat them. And then second, if they don't comply, parenthesis, because when have they ever fucking complied? End of parenthesis, we'll then unleash more weapons at them. That's the sense of fair play in the Western civilization. Well, you're not dealing with people in a Western civilization. You're dealing, it's a barbaric death cult. You're dealing with people who are tribal, who are nomadic, who are Bedouins. That's their history. They're not letting go of it. Islam is a system. It's a political system. It's a life system. It's not a religion per se, and they will never stop. They will never stop. That's why I go back to, and I learned this from the people that came back from the sandbox that I was managing when military people would come back, and I'd ask them because I'd be supervising them. And one of the first things that a guy said back in the 90s to me was, okay, here's how it works. Me against my brother, me and my brother against my cousin, me and my brother and my cousin against the tribe, me and my brother and my cousin and the tribe against the outsider, period, end of statement. That's how it works. And it changes every day, every hour. It's subject to change for any reason at any time. Don't expect it to comply or make sense to Western standards because it's not.
No, I mean, seriously. And that's why President Trump keeps saying, well, we dragged them to the negotiation table because we still hold all the cards. And the Iranian leadership's like, well, they begged us to come to the table because they needed this war to end. Because again, from their perspective, they won. They stood up to the great Satan. They took a Mike Tyson punch and they're still standing. They win. I cannot make anybody with a Western mindset understand that. I kept running into a brick wall with that with Gene the other day. And that's why I said last night, you cannot negotiate with people that want us dead. And he's like, there's lots of people that want us dead. I'm like, yeah, but these people have been proving they want us dead for 47 years. When are we going to start believing them? Jesus.
We're actually even seeing a little bit of that mindset being adapted here domestically with Antifa, because what they're doing is something similar. They're justifying their actions because they're going after Nazis and fascists. Well, who's that? Whoever they declare to be Nazis and fascists. You know, that doesn't have to be rooted in anything concrete. It's all interpretational. And then when you retaliate and go back and say, well, you're breaking the law by bombing and murdering and what have you, you can't go after Antifa. It's a amorphous entity. There's no leadership. It doesn't really exist. You can't even define it, even though you just defined it to justify going after who you call Nazis. And it's a game that's being played. They keep moving pieces off of the chessboard in order to come back onto it and get into a checkmate position.
Okay,
they don't
Brad,
play by the rules.
Brad, this is for you because I don't know. What's the movie? But I think this quantifies everything. Islam, leftists, anarchists. What movie is this from? They hate us because they ain't us.
Oh, geez, I've heard that before too, but can't pin it down. Actually,
It's something with James. Russo. I can't think of the guy's name. Sorry, but that's true. They hate us because they ain't us, and we ain't them.
Yeah, and it's a large part of the grievance that they have built into their doctrine, that they look at the West and say everything we're doing is evil and demonized, and then they resent us because they're in sand hut positions as a result, and then they justify going after us because of the excess that we have.
You know, I'm reminded of an old Sam Kinison bit that he used to do about the Middle East. You guys remember the bit I'm talking about? When he was talking about how all these people in the desert are starving, and he's like, "Move where there's not so much fucking sand."
Hello.
I don't know. I always resonate with him because he's another former pastor who went a different way. So I kind of feel like he's kind of my spirit animal.
Yeah, I mean, somebody even said once too that instead of dropping bombs, just drop food on them, and when they get full stomachs, they won't be angry anymore. But their quest for power doesn't make sense like we're trying to make it make sense. If you look back on USA for Africa and Live Aid when all that was going on, I mean, first off, do they know it's Christmas? No, they're Islamic. So that shows you the bad approach to things already. But the whole reason that they were starving in Ethiopia was because of all the warlords and factions that were drawing borders on people that don't recognize borders because they're nomadic. They follow crops and herds for food. Well, when you close off the borders and say, well, you can no longer go over there because we won't let you or they won't let you in. Well, guess what? They're stuck in arid desert conditions where you can't grow food or livestock. Hence, you're starving. So sending rice over there isn't the solution. Get rid of the people that are not letting them go to where the food is at. That's shows you some of the fractured approaches to the problems over there.
Bush, folks, if you remember, George Bush, the son, in right around 2003 somewhere, don't quote me exactly, sent $120 billion for HIV, AIDS treatment and prevention and research and all that kind of stuff. To whom did that money go? Answer, no one knows. Did it go to the peeps? Answer, no one knows. But theoretically, $120 billion should have stopped AIDS in Africa. Did it? No. Where did the money go? No one knows.
Yeah, and we're also seeing the same kind of approach taking place with the new outbreak of Ebola over there. Because, our thought process, well, just keep people hemmed in, quarantine them, and it won't spread. Well, their people are coming in and saying, my cousin died, I want his body. It's like, no, that's the last thing you do. Because the body is the most contagious right now.
Right.
So instead they're going in and breaking into the facilities to get the bodies, and people that are patients are escaping into the wilderness.
And nothing says stopping Ebola like burning tents of people that are there trying to help them and making sure that you kiss and fawn over the dead bodies of your family, etc. Because that'll stop things.
All right, so I wanted to give Brad a chance to see if he could come up with the answer, but since he didn't, I will let you guys know what movie that was from. That was from The Interview in 2014.
James Franco, right? James Franco.
Yep,
Oh,
James
that's what it was,
Franco.
yes.
Yeah, his character Dave Skylark. They hate us because they ain't us. And for those of you who don't remember the movie, that's the one where a TV host and his producer land an interview with none other than the mental midget of the North, otherwise known as
David
Kim Jong-un.
Skylark. That's a great name.
Definitely for like a news dude, for like an interview guy. That's a great name for a TV dude. Just saying.
All right, I'm David Skylark.
But anyway.
I'll change my name.
Yeah. He's going to show up on X tomorrow as DS. Like, what?
David
What?
Skylark here, kids.
But yeah, no, I mean, dude, and I don't want to keep harping on this one subject, but again, my whole thing with this is, and I tried to see if I could get Gene to engage with this part as well, but he never really seemed to want to. Is one, and I already mentioned this part. The money's fungible, so now that we're giving them money again, the thing is, they keep saying, well, if they don't do the right thing, then we're going to be able to not give them the money, or we've already said in the memorandum that we're not going to interfere in their internal affairs anymore.
And the money's gone, kids. The
One
money's
of the-
gone. Anywhere.
These two things can't coexist in the same space at the same time. We either oversee what they do with the money, which is by definition interfering in their internal affairs, or we do not any longer interfere in their internal affairs. And these two things cannot be this. They can't happen at the same time. And that's just point one. The other point is, when Trump first started talking about this stuff, there were 4 pillars as to why we went in there. Yes, his biggest thing that he said for as long as he's been a public figure is Iran can never be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. But he also was, up until Wednesday, talking about how dangerous Iran was with ballistic missiles, and how one of the reasons they were going in was because they wanted to make sure that they no longer had access to ballistic missiles, that we destroyed their capability to build ballistic missiles, and that we made sure they didn't have them anymore. And then he even went a step further with all of it and basically started talking about these other points about how, we want to make sure that they don't fund terrorist groups anymore through their proxies. The only pillar of the 4 that survived was the no nukes. And everybody on our side says, victory, because he said they can't have nukes, and now they're not going to have nukes. All right, so let's take all of that at face value for just a moment. How are we going to know they don't have nukes? And then I heard Jesse Waters on the 5 yesterday saying, well, Space Force is going to be monitoring them. And the second anybody even riding a camel comes near where that nuke dust is, we're going to bomb them again. No, the fuck we're not.
Please. Okay, we can take all your fissionables and your materials, and you can't have that. But here, have the entire damn delivery system. That's fine. I'd like to make this point too. Okay, Iran is about 2.5 times bigger than Texas, like 1.6 million square miles. And we can could we not go into Texas, and we'd find all the fissionables that evildoers have secreted into Texas. And sure, we'll be able to go and find all that stuff in Iran twice, 2.5 times bigger than Texas. I don't feel assuaged by that. And we don't have boots on the ground, because once you do that, you're in for a penny and in for a pound. So somewhere, some of these shit sticks will still have some fissionables. And we're also going, like my show last night, here, have some missiles, have all the damn delivery systems that you can manage.
Well, here's the thing. This is what set me off. Was one, he said that, and then in the same press conference, he starts walking back whether they should have nuclear for energy purposes. And here's my problem with that.
Jeez.
Again, we're talking about the Islamic Republic of Iran, not a democratic nation, not someone that we have, any type of stable peace with or anything else. So you're talking about giving people anywhere from, let's say, just for the sake of argument, short to medium range ballistic missiles and fissionable material enough to run a nuclear plant. Do you not realize what they can do with fissionable material that is enriched enough to run a power plant, because it can still become a dirty bomb rather easily, and you can still jerry rig it to a short range or even medium range ICBM. Medium range ICBMs would hit Israel with nukes. That's what we're talking about. Or that's what no, well, medium range ballistic missiles, not ICBMs.
Well, look what happened when
that's what we're talking about.
early on when they tried to do that launch towards Diego Garcia. You know, it didn't. It was a Hail Mary. It didn't have any shot really, but they suddenly saw that Iran had range capability that was more than double what had previously been claimed. And then somebody got the protractor out and said, well, wait a second. That means they can reach Europe.
Yeah.
Which is another reason.
Wake people
Which
up.
is another reason why I said when Donald Trump was like, yeah, well, their neighbors have them, so why can't they have them? Because they can fucking reach Europe with them. That's why.
Iran.
Yeah, there you go. There's your answer. Because of who they are, not what their neighbors have. Their
Hey,
neighbors
kids,
are not the ones threatening Europe on a daily basis.
let's go back to 2010. Anybody? No, of course not. Remember Stuxnet, when their centrifuges in Iran were hacked, okay, and that was decimated. That killed all their centrifuge. They came right back. And they continued to come back, and they will come back. Give them, just like Rick, you said, if there's one alive in charge, guess what?
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. And again, I can't make people with a Western mindset understand this part. And this is one of the reasons why I knew at some point we were going to have to make a deal. I just didn't expect Trump to give away everything all at once with the deal. Because here's the thing. We are trying to keep the world from collapsing. Their religion requires not only the world to collapse, but it to be bathed in blood for their version of the Messiah to come back. That's the whole point of the caliphate. So you cannot be fighting with one hand on the scales and one hand on the trigger against a group that wants you dead and has been chanting such wonderful phrases in Arabic and every other Islamic language since the 1950s. First the Saturday people, then the Sunday people, the little Satan and the great Satan, America must die. Yeah, these are things they've been chanting for years. Remember when they were dancing in the streets when the planes hit the buildings in 9/11? And I don't care whether you think it was an inside job or not. They were still dancing in the streets when the planes hit the buildings at 9/11. These are the people we're fighting against. Last time I checked, nobody declared the war on terror over. I thought we were freezing assets of terrorists. It's one of the things that I've been screaming about with Mexico now for years. The cartels are basically terrorist organizations. Why are we not freezing their assets? The regime in Iran is a terrorist group. Why have we not frozen every bit of their assets that we can find?
We
started to do that, but the press was getting squeamish about even that. I remember Scott McFarland interviewing a Mexican cartel member and sympathetically asking him, how do you feel being described as a terrorist? Why do you care what he feels like when he's a murderous fentanyl distributor?
Our biggest strength is our greatest weakness, and it's our Western mindset, which keeps us from, I'll tell you to your face for hundreds of years that we're here to kill you. And our mindset is, well, I can't really believe what you're saying because you don't really mean it. There must have been something evil or bad that happened to you that made you mad or angry. And you can tell us this with spittle flecking into our faces from the foam issuing from your mouth, and we still won't believe what you're saying square to our faces, to every one of us, because people don't really act like that. Come on, if you could only sit down at a nice even table and some nice warm cocoa and hand it around to everybody on the table, eventually people will come to be rational, won't they?
Yeah, the problem is we have, because of our, and I know you know this already, I'm just explaining, because of our philosophical differences, we have a different definition of rationality. That's another problem that we keep running into with these people. because to them, it is perfectly rational to take the punch, stand up to it, talk trash behind the scenes, say you're going to cooperate, and then secretly do whatever you were planning on doing in the first place.
Well, and face in Japanese is the same
You're
as
asking the wrong question, dumbass. Why do they want to kill us is the better question when we keep trying to extend a hand of friendship to the assholes. We aren't the ones who want the war. They are. You're asking the wrong fucking question. Either pay attention or get the fuck out of my chat.
rather succinct. Bada bing, bada boom. Choo, poosh. Nuked. Move on.
Sorry, BZ, didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead and
No,
go
no,
back
no,
to your thought if you can remember.
That's okay. You know, there's still something within us, a sense of, even though the Democrats and leftists have mostly eliminated it, there's a sense of general fair play within the nation that keeps us from doing what truly needs to be done by people that are simply not the same as ours. You know, and when you import the turd world, you become the turd world. There are persons and there are societies and there are cultures that, and let me say this quite upfront, that are not the same as ours, that are not as good as ours, that are not as intelligent as ours. Period.
Oh, you
Couldn't
can
have said
say
it much
that
better
about
myself.
Islam. And it's all,
All
little
right, so
black brown people.
let's try to change topics because we do have another couple of things I wanted to hit on. So if you guys, and so I'm sure you guys have seen the stuff going on with the algae at the reflecting pool. Have you guys heard what really happened though that almost nobody's talking about? Because
I heard
the-
some
the-
things. What did you hear?
well, the folks that started testing to figure out why the water started turning green have figured out that the algae that is in the reflecting pool is not indigenous to the DC area. It actually comes from Georgia. So somebody did it on purpose, which is another reason why it took over the area so quickly. And then, of course, CNN's like, and all the paint's flaking off the bottom. Yeah, no, it's not. That's actually them trying to clean the algae off the bottom of the pool. But yeah, they keep glossing over the fact that the only reason there's currently algae in the reflecting pool is because probably the same asshole who lawnmowered in 8647 somehow without anybody noticing probably threw some algae in the fucking pool, because this is why we can't have nice things.
Well, it was green before. Why shouldn't it continue to be green?
What pisses me off about that is fucking, who was it? Senator Kane this morning talking about how, well, Donald Trump American blue turned Iranian green around the same time that he sold us out on this deal. And I'm like, first of all, I hate the fact that you're not admitting why it's green. And I also hate the fact that I have to agree with you that I feel like you kind of sold us out.
Kermit, it's tough being green.
I mean, I'm not big on conspiracy theories, but at the same time, just grasping the utter pathological hatred of Trump that people have, I would not put it past anybody. So I'm not sitting there adhering to this necessarily, but if we come to find out it's the case, I'm not shocked either.
Because
Yeah.
none of the things that we thought were conspiracy theories, thank God, turned out to be true. Whew, I feel better.
Yeah, it's not like we've not been batting 1,000. I mean, hell, Tulsi Gabbard on her way out the door basically went scorched earth on the Leprechaun of Potomac, which was fun. I don't know if you guys have seen that video. I played it in the Daily Show earlier. But yeah, she's like, everything that we were trying to say that we were getting, deplatformed, demonetized, banned for, she basically said, yeah, he did all those things on her way out the door. And here's the receipts. I kind of want it. I swear, if I had even an inkling of a deep pocket, I'd be suing everybody over the possible remuneration we lost. Because if they
we went through that over at Red State frequently because a couple of our people were covering a lot of the COVID details and coming up with, not just claims and opinions, but doctor-backed evidence and things that were going on, and we were flagged and demonetized for it because of false information. All of it's been proven out. And again, it was the people telling us you got to follow the medical professionals. Well, our pieces were citing medical professionals, doctors and such, researchers. And we got flagged for doing that because it didn't fit the narrative.
Caveat.
It's like, well, we're doing what you're telling us to do and you're mad at us for it.
Caveat. However, we can all see clearly that once this information has come out, we've jumped right on it immediately to make sure that people have consequences to their actions. Haven't we seen all that? Sure we have.
Are you trying to start a stand-up routine? Is that what we're doing? I already work for one comic. I don't really want to work with another. Okay. Sorry. Anyway. All right. So the other thing that I feel like we kind of need, well, a couple of things we need to talk about. I love the fact that now that we have people from Europe actually in America, because, for the last 20 years, apparently they've been afraid to come here. They're finding out how awesome we are to the point where they're like, holy crap, they really do have air conditioning everywhere and ice in all their drinks. Yeah, that was an amazing moment. I kind of feel sorry for Freddie, though, because I think he has to go to Canada next.
Yeah, he's going to Toronto, from what I heard.
Yeah, he might get mated while he's up there. You better be careful.
I love the guy in the video with the dark hair sitting, I don't know, maybe he's at a gas station. And it might have been a gas station. The camera is panning. He's, look at this. Look at that. Look at this. Hey, and somebody's recording him. I can get refills here. I can get, and the guy says, stop with the refills. Okay, that's way too. No, I can get another refill. Then he says, it's so cold.
Yeah.
My favorite thing is when they find a restroom and they realize they don't have to pay to use it. Because that is not the case in Europe, by the way.
Saw one French guy that was at Buc-ee's and he said, I came in here prepared to hate this place. The bathroom is nicer than my apartment.
Dude, that's no lie. I have only been to Buc-ee's twice, but I swear to God, I do not live in a small home by any comparison. I have like a 2,100 square foot ranch style home. And I swear to God, their bathroom was almost as big as my house. I'm like, what?
Just the most interesting is seeing the people say that, they were lied to because, what we were told about America and what they're seeing firsthand, the way they sell our country over there, that like gunplay is taking place everywhere.
Well, yeah, these people still think we're riding around on horses with 6 guns on our hips and tumbleweeds everywhere. And they will tell you that when you're over there.
It's always the people in Europe, and they're saying, well, maybe stop shooting schools up. Okay, yeah, because that's a daily occurrence there.
They make it sound like it is.
Almost every refrain I've heard from a lot of those videos is, and they're so friendly.
Oh yeah. Well, I've spoken to a bunch of people in Europe over the years, and they would say that they can always tell when Americans are traveling over in Europe because they just walk up and start talking to you, and that's like freakish to Europeans. The fact that you could walk up to a stranger and have a conversation out of nothing, that's like a foreign concept, literally, to the foreigners. And I saw one couple, I wanted to maybe Sweden or something. They were in Texas, and they walked in might have been a honky tonk, I don't know, but they said they walked in and were frightened. They just saw cowboy hats and everybody there, and they were petrified. Within 5 or 10 minutes, they had like half a dozen best friends. People were buying them drinks, giving them challenge coins and everything else. And they were just shooting a video in their car. They couldn't even blink. They were so shocked at just how pleasant everything was in Texas, no less.
And probably line dancing and drinking. Here, have more, Vladimir.
Yeah, the one thing where I guess what was, I guess it was Scottish Sean. The one thing that I feel like he kind of stepped in it on was when he started bragging about Tennessee barbecue, and everybody's like, "That's the wrong one." That's the wrong one. But yeah, the whole thing with the Scots in Boston has been amazing, and I know Brad Nagy talked about this a little bit the other night because I brought it up. But they were like the Scottish people drank Boston out of beer. to the point where the beer manufacturers ran out of beer. not
The
not the
Boston
bar.
Beer Company.
The beer company had no more beer. They were
Son of a.
but again, they drink their beer warm. They were probably enjoying the fact that it was cold for one. Because
Oh, yeah.
over there their beer is warm. So they were like, wait, it's cold.
Cold? What a concept.
And as a former
What a
draft beer
company.
technician, I can tell you what's involved to keep it cold is pretty complex. So
I can only
Merca.
imagine. Merca,
Yakov
baby.
Smirnoff.
America.
What
But-
a country.
But yeah, no, seriously, that is exactly what this just felt like. It kind of feels like the whole thing where, when Yakov started getting famous and everybody started hearing his routines, because we're seeing the same things from them. They're coming over here and seeing grocery stores the size of airplane hangars that have like every cut of meat imaginable for them available at like 7 a.m. on a Wednesday. I'm like, what the hell what is up with this country? And they've got free refills on everything, and they've got and they realize that we don't need mass transit because we have roads that can actually support our cars and we actually drive them.
Well, I had to
'Cause
laugh the
over
other
there-
day because somebody in Europe put up a picture. They were in some grocery store and they said, "Oh, Americans think cheese is something that comes out of a can. They have no idea." And somebody posted a photo from the same store. And they said, if you walked around that display case and they showed it, it was like a 30-foot long trough of all the different cheeses that are available there from all over the world. It's like, yeah, you're not fooling anybody. We shop there.
I think my favorite thing has been, other than the actual reactions from the folks that are visiting, has been like the TSA account getting in on it and talking about, if you're going to bring back ranch, because we know you don't have any and you love it now, please make sure you check it. And then they put out one today that was like, we never thought that diplomacy could be achieved through dressing. But yeah,
I mean, I just have to laugh when they talk about our supposed limitations. I can right now go across the street and buy a brick of cheese from Australia if I wanted to. It's got a crocodile on the label and everything. So don't tell me we don't know cheese in this country. Sorry.
Is
got
the
it
brand
all.
is the brand of the cheese that's not a knife? This is a knife.
No, it's actually crocodile or something with a crocodile on the label.
I just crocodile made me think of Crocodile Dundee. So
I
tried
could
to
definitely
make sure.
get that right now if I wanted to. So it's sorry. We know the truth.
Sorry, but yeah, that's the thing. Now a lot of people are starting to know the truth, and the funny thing is, all the folks that are all over social media talking about how great America is, all the people that are still back across the pond are like, "You've been brainwashed, you stupid Scottish bastard."
Empirical wisdom doesn't count apparently. But what's amazing to see is that we got people from other countries coming here falling in love with the country, but on the news we see people in this country bitching about it to the point that they're rooting for other teams at the World Cup supposedly.
Not only
I-
bitching about it, but fundamentally trying to change it. It used to be one thing when you talked about socialism as like a political construct or an idea that hadn't really taken hold anywhere. But now we have pockets of it trying to crop up all over the place. And now, and I talked about this today, Mamdani might not be the actual leader of the political party, but he's basically become the ideological leader because now he and AOC are doing everything they can to oust Democrats who aren't progressive enough, who aren't socialist enough, and it's starting to work. And that scares me because, and I'm going to say this again, we have been mixing these two systems together now for a while, which was always a bad idea. Because the problem is those two fundamental systems cannot exist in the same space at the same time for very long without one canceling out the other. And unfortunately, it seems like we're going to try to make a run into full-on socialism before we can stop it.
Well, you can ask them, show me one country that has been continued inherently successful that was socialist or communist, and that's immaterial because every other person thinks I can do communism, I can do socialism better than the last guy. And you're right, Mamdani is the de facto leader of the party because, hey, kids, what just happened in D.C. with Janice Lewis George? And she's probably going to KATN in November. That's my guess, probably. and it is circular. You know, we went through, the British have always had a massive element of socialists within, and we had to fight that crap in the 40s and the 50s. God, the guy that was in charge of New Mexico during the Manhattan Project, can't think of his name, but I can see his face. He was a communist. So were a lot of the engineers that were working there, particularly the ones that came across the pond from Germany. So this rears its ugly head again and again and again, but it keeps getting fought down because people inherently, at least on the Western side, kind of sort of prefer freedom. So until we put up walls to this crap, it's going to continue. And they are just like Muslims, because at this point, they ain't going to stop.
Oh no, because they think they're right, and they are willing to do whatever it takes at any cost. This is again something that we don't seem to understand in this country anymore. People that feel like they have ideological superiority are never going to stop until they've either proven their point or until they no longer exist. And that's what worries me about what's coming, because not only do we have the Muslims now who have already said out loud, I mean, even Omar has basically said, my people didn't come here to assimilate, they came here to colonize. What happened the last time we had folks that were trying to colonize a place? Didn't go very well, because the chiefs of the tribes didn't like the fact that Christianity was becoming dominant in their Indian tribes, because love thy neighbor doesn't go very well with pillage thy neighbors and rape thy women whenever you want. So they tried, they basically.
You got to look too, though, at the convenience of this socialism uprising, is that it's taking place in New York and DC, which are two cities that don't produce stuff. They're pure consumer areas, where the rest of this country is rooted in American exceptionalism. And they're sitting there demonizing Elon Musk right now for becoming a trillionaire, because he's done the things that they demanded of us. He's come up with the only functional electric vehicle on the planet, and they hate him for it. Joe Biden spent $65 billion to try to wire this country, and hasn't installed any high-speed internet as promised. And yet Elon Musk has Skylink that can be delivered to anybody at a fraction of the cost.
Well, and let's not forget the billions of dollars for charging stations, and they did 7. Scott in the chat actually asked a very good question. To me, socialism is unconstitutional, so it can never be implemented. What do you guys think? In theory, you're right. In practice, they're already starting. So,
well, I call it Thug's Law. And I learned Thug's Law as a cop, and that's this. What's mine is mine, and what's yours is mine, until you're strong enough to stop me. And that can be used all across every aspect of society. Yeah, we have tons of laws. And how many times do you see laws that are completely, they're just ignored? So people are going to do what they can do, or what they will do, until somebody either physically or by law stops them. Also ... with the caveat of, folks, there's malum in se and malum prohibitum, and malum prohibitum is frequently wrong. Malum in se it's a concept in law that says malum in se, people know what is inherently fundamentally wrong on its face. Malum prohibitum is, it's wrong and it's against the law because today we say it's law. Hello, slavery, that was fine. No problem. So we have to make a difference. We have to delineate strictly between the two. And Scott, it's a great comment, except that Thug's Law.
Well, not to take us back to the beginning of the show, but Thug's Law is basically exactly what Donald Trump just ran face into in Iran.
Yeah, it's the difference between legality and ethics. That's
exactly how the regime looks at it. You didn't take what's still mine, and I still have it, so I win. So, yeah, but anyway. All right. So
They're doing everything incrementally is what it is. So by getting more socialist, and like in Los Angeles where they want illegals to start voting, that's how you'll start to leach into the constitutionality. Because
well, this may lead to a modernized version of the 3/5 clause if they keep pushing for it, because that's the whole reason we had the 3/5 clause in the first place, was to make sure that people that weren't technically people, as far as the folks were concerned, were able to influence the population enough to change how the House was able to vote. But yeah, anyway. All right, go ahead.
1 point for Brad. You're absolutely right. Kids, read the book Nudge by Cass Sunstein, who says incrementalism is how we get there. Frog in the boiling pot. And that's how we're going to push you. We're going to push you in little bitty bits that you can chew up, and you'll find them palatable until one day, maybe not so palatable. I'd like to end with this. Anybody see the city council that was voted out and they said, no, we're not going to listen to you. We're staying. We're right here.
No, which city council was that?
I'm trying to think. It was in California. They were off the charts. And then the people got together, voted them all out. There were 6 or 7 of them. And they all sat, came back, held a session, held a meeting, and said, we're not listening to you. We're just going to do what we're government. We're going to do whatever we want when we want. And you guys can go to hell.
damn.
So in other words, they're the ones who decided not to leave after an election. I bet you they're all Democrats too. How much you want to bet? How much you want to bet?
I'll try to find the story. I'll ship it to you guys later.
All right. So, all right. So we'll start going around we're actually a little bit over at this point, and I don't know how much longer my voice is going to last, and I still have to try to rest it a bit because I still have one more show to do today. So we'll start with Brad. What's your favorite topic you've covered this week, or any favorite story you want to share?
I haven't covered yet, probably tomorrow, but it's the revelation that came out of Britain about all the rape gangs and the deep research they've done into it and how much that has taken place. I mean, the numbers they've come up with are staggering. We're talking tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of female victims. And the level of abuse that went on with their own women from the rape gangs. The amazing thing is our media isn't covering it at all. Like, it's been measured that in the last 2 to 3 days, the major networks and the cable news networks outside of Fox haven't touched on the subject at all. These are
they're too busy talking about the reflecting pool. Sorry,
but these are the same news outlets that are refuse to let go of the Epstein file story because of the victims. And I think this shows that utter bullcrap.
Yeah.
It's not the victims; it's because of Trump, and that's all.
Well, this is over there though, and they think it's kind of funny because to them, the Muslim folks came into Europe and went with. I can't get it to play. Never mind. I was gonna try. There it goes. Where are the white women at? There it goes. Delayed, but there it went. But
Good question. Where are they?
But yeah, that's what all the Muslim men came and started screaming, where's the white women at? But no, I mean, seriously, the thing that I found the most interesting about this story when it first started breaking is the first hill that Piers Morgan tried to die on was that 250,000 numbers really inflated. And I'm kind of like, I don't know if that would be where I would be trying to make my point, because it doesn't really matter if it was 5.
Yeah, immaterial.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway. And how about you, BZ? What's your favorite thing you've either talked about this week or that you're going to talk about at some point?
Okay. Kunta Kinte, I have found you. This is from Washington.
Your name is Toby.
That's right. Tobeans. Washington Examiner. California council members refused to leave office, sparking legal battle with residents. So they got recalled. So there were, I got the number right. There were wrong. There were 3 city council members, including the mayor, in a town called Avenal, which happens to have one of the California state prisons in it. So it's not a huge community, but that's what kind of runs things there. So the council members and the mayor They are refusing to give up their seats or even leave after voters overwhelmingly recalled them in April, just like 2 months ago. Okay. So it's a political standoff. It's in social media. It's packed public meetings, and now it goes into the courts. They were recalled by the will of the people, and this is a government that says no, pound sand, go to hell. And it's happening right now. Now, because we know of the logical extension from BZ, how many other councils or how many other areas, depending on what happens here, or perhaps not depending, are going to look at that and go, hey, cool, we can do anything we want. If it works for them, why wouldn't it work for us?
Oh yeah, I'm sure. That's another reason why I'm terrified of all these socialist mayors and socialist city councils that are starting to come in. And I am, they're trust me, if this socialist chick wins in DC and Donald Trump threatens to actually does what he's threatening to do, there will be riots. I promise you.
Well,
Because
Dearborn,
we're not going to lose it. We're not going to lose our businesses. I will take DC back over before that happens. And I understand exactly what he's saying. And the thing about it is, in this instance, since DC is technically an enclave, he can at least assume control for a while. I don't know if he can do so permanently anymore, but yeah. It's both a Chinese proverb and a Chinese curse. May we live in interesting times, and we definitely are. And I don't know how I feel about that.
Gene is right on one level. November. House, Senate. Okay. What? Because like Muslims, what these fuckers are telling us to our face, they've already said, yeah, we're going to do that. And we don't care who gets destroyed. Like Sun Tzu, we don't care. We'll just rule over the ashes.
That's pretty much what they're telling us. They're telling us the quiet parts out loud, but just like we do with the folks in the Middle East and the other folks that are threatening to kill us, oh, they don't really mean it. They're just mad at us about this, and it'll all be okay. But we have a huge problem in this country, and we have had for a long time. For the longest time, the Republicans have been treating the Democratic Party like they're the big brother in the system, and we as Republicans have been doing everything we can to chase their approval, and that has led to all kinds of issues, including one of the biggest hullabaloos of my lifetime so far, and I wasn't very old yet, was when Reagan said, yeah, we'll wipe the slate clean and start over. And that was the beginning of the divide that we're now seeing, that was kind of small in the beginning, that's now bigger than the Grand Canyon, because Republicans have been completely schizophrenic about it, because they're pissed because those that have been around long enough remember what it felt like to be screwed over, but at the same time, they still want Big Brother's approval. It's the weirdest thing ever. I don't know where we go with it from here, because we have too many squishes at the top of the system who don't want to fix things, because if they fixed it, we wouldn't need them anymore. So it's becoming a real problem.
Well, and the Republicans have historically wanted to be loved. Dudes and dudettes, you will never be loved. Ever. So that's your foundation. Start at you will never be loved, because you won't, and then go from there and ignore the love. Just do what needs to be done for the people.
Well, the problem is they actually started out being loved, because when the party was formed and they got rid of slavery, everybody thought of them as heroes. And then, about 100 years or so later, the Democrats figured out how to steal their thunder by letting their president sign the deal that their own party didn't want to vote for. And the Republicans pushed across the finish line, which again brings us back to, I guess, Juneteenth for everybody who celebrates today. Make sure you're reminding everyone that this is the day, and it used to be a big deal in Texas. I honestly didn't know anything about it until I think it was Biden that made it a thing. I'd never even heard of it before, but it was a big deal in Texas, because that was about the time that the Texas slaves, the folks that were still slaves in Texas, figured out they were actually free. And this was 2 years after the end of the Civil War, by the way. So, yeah. So, it's the day that Republicans finally forced the remainder of the Democrats who hadn't done so yet to say, hey, you should probably tell these people that they're free now, you assholes. Anyway, so as far as my contribution to favorite child of the week, I did write something this week. It took me a minute to put it together, because it was very painful to write, because I'm pissing everybody off on both sides.
It was very good.
But
Yeah.
nobody wanted it, so it's on my X feed as an article, so you can go find it there at RowdyRick73. Because none of the folks I contribute to wanted to touch it. I didn't even ask Sam because I was like, I know Twitchy won't want it, but I write for a couple others that I do editorials from for time to time, and I'm like, maybe they'll want it. They're like, yeah, no. But then again, I hadn't submitted anything to them in a while either, so I don't even know if the same person's still in charge. Anyway, that's going to do it for this one, folks. We're going to get out of here because I have to be back on at 8:30 Eastern, and I still haven't eaten lunch yet. Yeah, I'm getting hungry. But now it's almost dinner time, so I'll probably just wait. So Brad, where can folks find you, sir?
Various places. You can catch me over at Town Hall every day with my media column there called Riff from the Headlines on the front page of Red State, and right here at this network where I got a couple of shows. Thursday night, Tuesday night, we cover a variety of things, entertainment, sports, you name it, we cover it. Not necessarily politics. It's like a breather or a break. But Tuesday night at 8:30 with Aggie Rican, and usually at 8:30 on Thursday nights, we do entertainment stuff.
Nice. And BZ, where can folks find you?
By the way, Brad, nice job on the radio thing. Thumbs up. I'm BZ on BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live every Tuesday and Thursday night on the SHR Media Network at 8 o'clock. I'm a late night show. I'm your conservative Sherpa at 8 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Centrale, and that's Central in Italian, and 11 p.m. Eastern. I am your conservative Sherpa. Thanks for having me on, sir.
Not a problem. All right, folks, as far as for me, for now, you can find me at RowdyRick73. You can on X and also on Facebook. You can find the network at KLRN Radio on Facebook and X right now. The Rumble channel will be back eventually, or the YouTube channel will be back eventually. Maybe, I don't know. And then you can also you can follow along with my personal YouTube at the same thing at Rowdy Rick. So I think it's Rowdy Rick Robinson. And then we're on Rumble as America's Podcast Network. However, if Trump keeps making me almost stroke out, I might be shoving the entire political thing and just start doing a comic book podcast. So
no, come on.
Yeah, Wednesday, dude. I was like, I can't do this anymore. And then I was talking to Gene. I'm like, are you guys on tonight? And I'm like, what are you guys going to be talking about? And then and we started talking about the thing. And he's like, what do you want? Regime change? Why can't you tell me what your plan is? Like, I'm not the fucking president. I didn't run to be president. I'm going off of what he said when he started bombing the place, and he changed all of it one piece. I'm not the one who has to have the plan. I didn't run for office, fucker.
And I don't get the PDB either. Whoa.
Might have gotten in trouble. Okay, I think we're back now. I think.
Yeah, we are.
Anyway, what were you saying? Because I lost you.
I was saying, yeah, well, you're not the recipient of the PDB either, the President's Daily Brief.
Right? Anyway.
Good God.
All right.
True.
We are going to get out of here. And I'll be back tonight for He Said, She Said, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. I am off tomorrow. However, I might actually try to do some writing for a couple of the other outlets, try to put something out that they'll actually publish. And then Sunday's Father's Day. I was going to do Kingdom and Country on Sunday night, and then I was originally going to move it to Wednesday night before I nearly had a stroke. I think I'm just going to take Sunday off because I have kids coming out now that weren't planning on coming out before. So anyway, so we're going to get out of here. You guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. Hopefully we've at least prepped you for it a little bit. But in today's news cycle, it changes every 30 seconds now anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Have a great night, everybody.
Happy Father's Day.
To those who celebrate, happy Father's Day.
See you guys.